Well, 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 the moment we have been waiting for has finally arrived because this morning, Nintendo finally announced and confirmed what we all expected. A Nintendo Direct is happening this week, and in fact, it's happening tomorrow. Nintendo just tweeted out this. They said, tune in on September 14th at 7 a.m. Pacific Time for a Nintendo Direct live stream featuring roughly 40 minutes of information focused on Nintendo Switch games releasing this winter. So I'm really thankful that they did end up tweeting it out this week and this morning with just enough time for me to record this video before I start working for the day. And it's, another early morning direct. 7 a.m. Pacific time is my time. So it should be something that I'm able to kind of watch first thing in the morning as well, also before working. And they're only giving us 1 day's notice. There was a lot of talk about how there might be 2 days notice, which sometimes Nintendo does do as well. All the discussions from Pioro and Nate the Hate, who I know fairly well, talking about it happening this week and making hints about certain things. Obviously, plenty of quote-unquote leaks, essentially rumors about things that we might be able to expect. And I'm going to talk about some of that stuff in this video as sort of a predictions thing. But yeah, here we go. It's Nintendo Direct time. Now, I think the first thing I want to point out is something that does clash with my general thought from my previous video a few days ago, where I was talking about the fact that there were direct rumors and leaks for this week, where I said it's fairly common for a September Nintendo Direct, which again, it's been like 10 years running that we always get one in September. The general idea that a lot of times a September Direct is more about priming games for the following year than it is for anything to release in that current year, because it's September and the year's almost over. How many big surprises could you reveal for the end of the year only in September? But to be fair, I think that might have been wrong on my part, because they state it is going to focus on games releasing this winter. So in my opinion, that is both kind of an exciting thing and maybe a less exciting thing. And there's a lot of ways Nintendo could approach the idea of focusing mostly on games this winter. I think the main thing to remember is that no matter what, there will be some kind of content or teases or trailers or some information about something coming out in 2024, or at least planned for 2024. And obviously the big one I'm going to talk about in this video as well. I think from the disappointing side of that concept, it makes us think if you're going to mostly talk about less exciting things. Like, I know there's DLC for Pokemon that's supposed to be coming up soon. Again, I don't personally follow the series, so I can't say too much on that. I don't even know what the release dates are for it, but I think that there's some kind of DLC sometime this winter over the holidays. It could be more of, everyone jokes about the farming simulators. Are we going to get weird indie games, weird farming simulators? Not a lot of huge announcements you would think could show up in this Direct to still release by the end of this year. Again, a few bombs for next year could be very exciting. But what could they do for this year? Well, there's one or two potentially exciting things that they could do. To address some of Pioro's kind of leaks and the hints that he or she was dropping, that Pioro was dropping about this past week, there were the discussions about a Donkey Kong game or Fzero. So if it's Donkey Kong, if that's a real thing that's being made that Pioro was hinting at, I gotta be honest, I don't think that that's going to be a surprise release for 2023. Now, if it's a 2024 release, whether it's Switch or Next Gen or whatever it is, it could show up as a tease for next year, but I don't think it would show up as a tease for one of the games that is releasing this winter, the way the tweet says. Now, Fzero, on the other hand, could very much be that. They could be planning some kind of, maybe not necessarily a shadow drop for Fzero, but an announcement of like a re-release or a remaster of Fzero GX, which we've all been wondering, or if they're going to do some digital thing, if they surprise us with GameCube games coming to NSO and Fzero could be related to that. Those are the kinds of things I could potentially see announced tomorrow in the Direct for something that is quote-unquote releasing this winter that falls in the Fzero camp. I've long said I would prefer a brand new Fzero game first and foremost. Right behind that, a remaster or a re-release or a remake of Fzero GX. And behind that would be just a straight port to release online for like NSO or something, That's kind of the order of excitement I have, but any one of those would be good. I own the GameCube game still, but even if they just re-released it on NSO, it would certainly be better than nothing. But let's be real, man. We want a new game or a remaster of GX. But let's talk about the other potentially exciting this winter games that we could see announced that wouldn't be farming simulators, that wouldn't be weird one-off indie games. That's not going to get anyone hyped. We're talking about Zelda, and we're talking about Metroid. So I'm just going to say it, man. I don't know what's going to happen. I haven't heard anything about this other than what you've heard publicly, but I do think Metroid Prime 2 remaster, re-release, something, I think is on the table to show up tomorrow. It just makes too much sense. They shadow dropped Metroid Prime Remastered earlier this year. They also then, we can't forget, they shadow dropped the digital versions of Pikmin 1 and 2. That's 3 GameCube games that got shadow drop re-releases, remasters, re-releases, ports digitally on the Nintendo Switch. Of course, Prime Remastered came out a few weeks later physically, and Pikmin 1 and 2 is also coming out physically sometime this month, actually. I think it releases pretty soon here. I can't remember the date. But that also got a delayed physical release. With Metroid Prime 2, man, we all talked about how much we wanted Nintendo to continue that trend because Metroid Prime Remastered was so good. Obviously, I'm biased. That's my favorite game of all time anyway, and the remaster just was drool-inducing. It was so freaking incredible what they did. Metroid Prime 2, Jeff Grubb, and other folks have discussed that maybe they would give it more of just like an HD polish as opposed to the full remaster treatment. And I would certainly still be excited with that, even though I would love the full remaster treatment. But whatever they might be doing, I think we have to keep our eyes open for that to happen. Metroid Prime 2 is coming. Whether it's a port for $20 or a full remaster for $40, whatever they're going to do, I think it could be a shadow drop or a surprise announcement to release this year before 2023 is over, which would fall within this releasing this winter discussion. And also, controversial as it might be, you guys, I am a believer in Wind Waker or Twilight Princess coming to the Switch potentially this year. A lot of people have said that's been rumored for too long, it's never going to happen. Other folks have said, and I understand this a little bit more, other folks have said they wouldn't do it this year because they already released a Zelda game because of Tears of the Kingdom. And in most years, I would understand and believe that. However, this year, I don't think it's impossible that they surprise us with one or both of those games as a shadow drop, or even as an announcement for next month or November, or even December. I don't think it's crazy for Nintendo to announce tomorrow like a $60 double pack of Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD. They might not even do a whole lot to those games to improve them necessarily, which would be fine. And they announce a double pack to release like in December. I mean, Nintendo has released big games in December before. They released Xenoblade Chronicles X on the Wii U in December. They released Xenoblade Chronicles 2 on the Switch in December. And they also released Smash Bros. Ultimate, a massive brand new game, also in December in the Switch era. And so I think that any kind of December release is not off the table for Nintendo. And maybe instead of brand new games, it makes sense for them to do something like maybe the Metroid Prime 2 thing, or a Prime 2 and 3, or a Zelda double pack, or even any one of those 4 games to release in October, November, or December, or, like I've said, even a surprise shadow drop after the Direct is over. So beyond that, I think we're probably going to get some more updates and maybe more of a true teaser or trailer for the Princess Peach game, which is currently slated for next year. For the Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon port, maybe that's something that's going to release early in the year. I could see that game being like a January or a February release. Remember, they usually like to squeeze in 1 or 2 fairly high-profile games in the first quarter. So one or both of those games could release in the first few months of 2024. And so I think that's almost for sure we're going to get some sort of updates or trailers about those 2 games. Again, I do not expect a Switch 2 or a hardware announcement or anything like that. They'll probably give us updates about Mario Wonder, even though they already had the direct presentation about that. Mario RPG might get a new trailer and some details. A couple of medium-sized surprises that probably won't make any big splashes. We might get, like I said, a huge new reveal for next year, like a new Donkey Kong game. Or, I mean, I don't think we'd see a new Kirby game. Probably something like a new Donkey Kong game. They're not going to talk about a new 3D Mario, I don't think, with Mario Wonder coming. So we might get something like that, which of course brings me to my last potential big thing that we could see. And yes, I'm shooting for the stars with this one, but I don't think it's impossible that we might hear from Metroid Prime 4. Again, this is a shot in the dark, guys, so don't hold me to this, but I absolutely think it is on the table to finally see and hear from Metroid Prime 4 again. Going into the end of 2023, we're currently in the 7th year of the Switch's life. 2024, next year, all signs point to Switch 2 coming soon. And whether you believe Metroid Prime 4 is a cross-gen title or a next-gen title or whatever, and I've said many times, gone on record saying I think it's going to be cross-gen, I feel like this year, the end of this year, this last Direct for 2023, I just think it could be the time, man. I think that, it all depends on when the game is releasing and what platform it's releasing on. I get it. So I'm not putting this as like a lock prediction or anything. But I just think we need to keep our minds open for the possibility that we see this game revisited in some way. Would we get a full 2.5-minute trailer blowout? Doubtful, but could we get a small tease, a 30-second re-reveal, something that gives us a hint at the visuals, the gameplay, or even just what Samus is going to look like? Yes, I do think it's possible. Could we also get that vague release window where we get a 30-second teaser maybe, and at the very end, we see a slow fade in of 2024, something like that? Yeah, that's probably my main prediction that I'm putting about a 50 to 60% chance happening. A small Metroid Prime 4 tease, not a blowout, and a release window, and I'm expecting or guessing it would be 2024. They're not going to give us a date. They're not going to confirm the hardware necessarily. I just don't see them giving us a 2-minute blowout of all the gameplay. I could be wrong, but it's definitely not what I'm expecting to happen. To me, the bigger prediction and idea that I'm going for here is just simply hearing about the game again, hearing Nintendo talk about it, and seeing some sort of brief tease with a release window that obviously could shift. But I think Nintendo might finally be ready to start teasing us about the existence of Metroid Prime 4 again, and I think we could see it tomorrow. So again, these are just some of my general thoughts, not a whole lot more to go on for now. Maybe Fzero, maybe Donkey Kong, maybe Metroid in some fashion, Wind Waker, Twilight Princess. I think that there's a couple of really exciting things we're going to get. We're going to get the filler, so everyone remember that. That's standard and par for the course for a Nintendo Direct, so don't be mad when you start seeing things like a farming simulator or indie games you don't care about. I mean, that is standard. A typical good Direct for any one person probably only needs to have 2 or 3 things that gets you excited. And I think this Direct, it just feels like time for Nintendo to really pull out the big guns and try to blow us away. So I'm expecting 2 or 3 of those big things to happen. Obviously, I'm hoping for Metroid stuff. I'm kind of expecting something. So I personally can't wait. Tell me what things you're looking forward to below. And I guess we'll touch base tomorrow after we've all watched the Nintendo Direct.